Hello everyone! Welcome back! Today I'm going to tell you about the royal tombs of the Joseon dynasty, while I paint my face and transform into a sexy, spooky lady. Or perhaps just a hot mess. Who knows? That's part of the fun. So, I'm going to tell you about tombs in general, but I'm also going to tell you about 3 particular tombs that are located in Seoul in the heart of Gangnam. But let's start with some facts. So there are actually 40 royal tombs located in 18 locations around Korea, but not all containing kings, of course, because there were only 27 Joseon kings. Some queens and princes and other people who were elevated posthumously to other statuses are buried in the tombs as well, so that's why the number's a bit higher than you might expect. We know also at least one royal tomb was dismantled and turned into a bridge somewhere in Korea. So the actual number of tombs that existed might be higher. But of the tombs that are still standing today, the oldest was built in 1408 and the youngest was built in 1966. Can you believe that? Somebody was late. Now, when you think of tombs, I guess you might think about the Egyptian tombs or maybe the European style catacombs, but Joseon tombs were not like that. Now, if we go further back in time to the Three Kingdoms period and we look at the Goguryo tombs, then you can see something like a walk-in style tomb that sometimes even had murals of the deceased painted on the walls. But that is not our focus today. So I know you're curious though, so if you're interested, leave a comment and say, Maggie, tell us about the tombs, and maybe I'll make a video about those too. So make sure you leave that comment. So now, the Joseon dynasty's tombs were more compact. And I keep saying tomb because that's honestly the best translation into a familiar word, but the truth is that they're not like European tombs or catacombs or anything. You can't step inside, you can't walk around, and truthfully the word burial mound might be more accurate. This is because the royal person's casket is placed inside a stone structure that is covered by dirt and grass to make it into a smooth, round mound. And that, oh, by the way, I'm using this impul. So that's, and that smooth, round mound is usually located at the top of another man-made mound or hill. It's really more like a hill. And actually, the place where the body is looks pretty similar to modern Korean family tombs, just on a larger scale. And whereas the royal tombs were one mound per hill with some accessories like statues around, modern Korean family tombs are usually grouped together on one pre-existing hill, usually, like family land. Now the area around the tomb or mound, look, I'm going to be switching back and forth between tomb and mound because honestly, I can't be doing stuff to my face while thinking about precise words and not trying to mess up. So just stick with me here and know that tomb is mound, mound is tomb. Whatever I say, I'm saying the same thing. We're talking about the same stuff. So there would be, usually in like the area where the tombs are, several of them grouped together, like their own hill, their own mound, but more than one in a parky area. Usually maybe the queen would be near the king or buried with the king, and maybe another subsequent king would be somewhere nearby. But the grouping is not uniform. Some tomb parks have 1 tomb, some have 3. It really depends on the area and what was going on at the time. Yeah, Maggie, what do you mean area? What do you mean? Well, sometimes it was something simple like, this area floods too easily, so let's not build more tombs here. But more often, it was something to do with Pungsu. Now, some of you might know that word by its Chinese name, feng shui. I bet none of you knew that it's called geomancy in English. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Don't lie to me. I know that. Nobody knew that. Geomancy is like never a word we use. So, Pungsu is the idea that everything everywhere has an energy, especially a flow of energy. And even the name suggests flowing because Pung is air or wind and Su is water, both of which flow, right? So the Joseon tombs were arranged with Pungsu in mind for the area. There was usually a Jusan, which is like a main mountain to the north of the tomb, and then a source of flowing water to the south of the tomb. The tomb structure itself would face the south with the mountain in the north behind the tomb. And what the reason for that was that the mountain would bring down the good energy, and the flowing water would stop the flow of energy, so that you get this kind of like feedback loop of good energy flowing around the tomb. Now, a place like that, which has this good energy flow and everything, is called a hyol. And it's said that if a tomb is built in such a place, then the spirit that's buried there preserve the future and the good energy of a country for the next 10,000 ages. Isn't that cool? Actually, King Sejong's tomb is a perfect example of good pungsuing. His tomb has like the best positioning in all the Pungsu rules. So speaking of Sejong, let me tell you something cool about his tomb while we're on the subject. King Sejong's tomb is called Yeongnung. The tombs are named after the people who are buried there. So the title comes from Sejong's name. Now I know what you're thinking. His name is Sejong, right? Shouldn't it be called like Saenung, right? The word nung means burial mound, and then the first half syllable should come from their name. So, right, Maggie, it should be Saenung. I hear you, but it's not. Actually, Sejong is a posthumous name, which was given to him after he died. In fact, all the Joseon kings that you've ever heard are all posthumous names. Nobody called him Sejong while he was alive, you know? So, now, that's not to say that no tomb has a posthumous name as its tomb title. Seonneung, which is King Seonjong's tomb, uses his posthumous title for the name of the tomb. But Sejong's is not this way. King Sejong's tomb is called Yeongnung, and it comes from the third syllable of his official royal title. So now, I'm going to try my best to tell you his official royal title, but I'm probably not going to say it very well. So give me your deepest forgiveness as I attempt this. His official royal title was 장헌영 문예 무인 성명효 대왕. So if you heard that, the third syllable there was Yeong, and that's where his tomb title comes from. Yeongnung is Sejong's tomb. I hope somebody puts that up on screen so you can see what I mispronounced horribly. There's actually a really cool story that goes with his tomb too. So let me tell you that before we go back to general tombs. When Sejong's tomb holds both Queen Sohyun, who passed away in 1446, and King Sejong, who passed away in 1450. And they were originally buried at Honnung, which is from her name, Honnung, which is in present-day Sochogu in Seoul. After King Sejong died, a number of really unfortunate events started to happen, and people started to think maybe it's because he was not buried in the best location. So a proposal was made to move the tomb to nearby Bukseongsan, but there's a problem because there were already high-ranking government officials buried there. As a king does, King Sejong suggested that the son of Lee In-sun, a third state councilor, move his father's tomb to make room for Sejong, and that's what he did, because when the king tells you to do something, you do it. And so, while excavating his father's tomb, while digging up his dad, he found a letter from Lee In-sun that said, please fly a kite, cut the string, and then bury me wherever the kite falls. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine just coincidentally being told to dig up your dad and then find a letter about what he actually wanted that you didn't know about before? It's coincidental and very lucky. So he does that. He flies his kite, he cuts the string, the kite falls about 10 li away. Li is a unit of Joseon measurement. So it's about 4 kilometers. So he flies the kite and it falls 10 li away. They move the tomb of Lee In-sun, and they make room for King Sejong's tomb. And the town actually ended up getting promoted to a city as a result, because 5,000 laborers, 150 artisans, and just 20 days later, the tomb of King Sejong was completed. Now, many people believe that the Joseon dynasty's good fortune was actually extended 100 years as a result of this auspicious move. That's pretty cool, right? Okay, back to the tombs. Now, when you approach the tombs, you get to this main tomb area, and the first thing that you're going to see is this big red wooden arch, and it's not an arch. It looks like an arch, but it's not an arch. It's a gateway. It doesn't have any doors or fencing, but it's called a gate, so just trust me. It is a gate. You can say it looks like an arch. You can argue with me all day long. It's a gate. So it's called Hongsalmun, which is a very literal name because Hong means red, Sal means the arrows at the top of the gate, and Mun means gate. So you see, Mun, gate, not arch. Hongsalmun literally means the gate with the red arrows. And in Korean, it's a signal that you're entering a sacred place, Confucianist tradition. So it's not just at tombs, you can also find it at like the Seowons, the Confucian schools, and also at the front of shrines. So anyway, in this case, you pass through Hongsalmun and you are entering the space between the earthly and the holy. What that means is that you are no longer on earth and you are not quite in heaven, you know? It's between. This is the area where the spirits of kings and queens meet their earthly worshipers or visitors. Let's talk about those buildings a little bit. Is that the building is called Jeongjagak. Now, Jeongja is a character, a Chinese character used in Hanja. Hanja is writing Korean with Chinese characters, and it looks like this, kind of like this. So Jeongja. So really, the name of the building is the building shaped like Jeongja. The next building you might notice is a very small building with a stone inside it, and that building is called the Bigak. So it's basically the protective building for the, let's say, tombstone, because that's basically what it is. If you think about a Western tombstone, it's got the person's name and the writing on it. You know, that's what it is, and so that's what that rock inside the peacock is. It's the tombstone that says like this is King Sejong. He lived from blah blah to blah blah. He was king for this amount of time, 9th king of the Joseon dynasty, etc. And then on the back is like a small biography of the king and like what his accomplishments were. I say king, but it could be a queen too, right? You know, whoever's buried there. And then that tombstone is located in a little wooden building to protect it from the elements. And so that's called a pigak. You probably will notice the chamdo before you notice any of the other buildings. The chamdo are those stone pathways that you'll notice going from Hongsalmun all the way over to the T-shaped building and to the base of the burial mound. And the chamdo are this elevated stone path and a lower stone path. There are two paths, and the elevated path is called the shindo, which is the path of the gods or the spirit path. And then the non-elevated path is called the odo, which is like the king's path. If you're a living person, you should walk on the odo. You should never walk on the shindo. Only the king's path is the one that you should use. And although there are signs everywhere in multiple languages that say, please don't walk on the shindo, please don't walk on the path, the spirit path, people do it anyway. They don't. It's clearly written in multiple languages, and people still do it. Why do people still do it? Because people are rude. Don't be rude. Don't walk on the spirit path. So, and something neat that you can see if you go over to the Gangnam tombs is that you can find a path from the queen's tomb over to the king's tomb. And now that's probably because she doesn't have her own T-shaped building, so she has to go like walk over to her husband's place when it's ceremony day. But I like to believe that they put it there so that they could visit each other, because I think that's super sweet and I'm a sentimental baby. Let's talk about what's at the top of the hill. I told you that the tombs have like accessories, like statues and stuff. This is so hard. There's these statues and things. They actually recently discovered a rule when they found some writings that you're not supposed to go up there and get close to the statues. So in some locations they've changed it so you can't access it anymore. So like if you visited Korea 10 years ago and the tomb of King Sejong 10 years ago, you would have been able to get up close to the statues, but now you can't. Some other places like the Gangnam tombs, you can still visit and get pretty close, close enough to see everything fairly well, but I don't know if they're gonna change that now that they've discovered the rule in the books. You see that Maggie has uneven eyebrows, that's what you see. No, the first thing you'll see is a U-shaped wall, and that's called the gokjang. And these are supposed to protect the tomb, the bongbun, which is the mound, and the whole sacred area. And then probably that's the next thing you'll see is the actual mound, which is the bongbun. And that's actually where the body of the king or queen lies. It can also be called nungchim. Remember I told you nung means mound, or nungsang. And then there's a protective rock around that, which is called the Pungsu. It's the stone which is placed underneath to protect the bongbun. And then you have this sort of like hedge-like stone which protects everything. And it's that hedge-like stone that was taken away from someone else's tomb and used as building material for a bridge somewhere. I messed up my eyebrow. That's okay, I'll fix it. So after you look at the mound, you might notice the mangjusok, which is these two stone pillars. They're erected on either side of the mound, and they are meant to be seen from afar so that the spirit can easily locate its tomb. Remember, this is an area where the spirits can come out and do stuff, right? So sometimes they go out and explore. They need to easily find their way back to their tomb. So that's what those are for. Next is this big stone table, and it's an offering table, and it was erected. It's erected in front of the mound to encourage the spirit to come out and play. So then we have this like stone beacon, which is called the Changmyeongdeung, and it's actually a lantern, and it's meant to comfort the spirit of the deceased when it's dark outside. It's an ancient Joseon dynasty night light. Isn't that sweet? I also would like to have a light outside of my tomb. It's dark. Usually there are these 4 dude statues, these 4 statues of men in front of all of this. I'm doing the very difficult eyebrow slant. Look at my pretty eyeshadow. I'm going to do a darker look today because we're talking about tombs. So what do you think? Dark, dark? I'm gonna go with this one. So the first one that you can see probably is the Seokho. Now, let me just say, I'm gonna be saying Seok a lot. Seok means stone. So just get used to it. I know what you're thinking. We're not talking about that. We're talking about rocks. So Seokho means stone tiger. It's the tiger deity which serves as a guardian for the bongbun. Then you're going to see this guy called Seokgyang is the stone sheep, which fends off evil spirits from the earth and prays for the souls of the departed. And then you've got Seokma, who is a stone horse. And that's it. The stone horse is there to be a stone horse. Finally, there's the Yegam. The Yegam is this burning box because you can't just burn stuff anywhere you want. That would be dangerous. So the Yegam is there for safe burning. And usually it's there to burn like the prayers after a burial ceremony or after a memorial ceremony, something like that. And they actually, this is a continuing practice in Korea. Modern Koreans or common folk would also burn things at the tombs of their loved ones, things that they wanted them to have in the afterlife. There's a whole lot more to tell you about the tombs, and I'm sure you are absolutely riveted already. But let's switch gears because we're running out of time, and I promise to tell you some weird things, and I believe it's time for me to deliver. There are these 3 tombs in the heart of Gangnam, and the park where this exists is called Seonjeongdeung. It's where King Sejong and his second wife, Queen Jonghyun, are buried, along with their son, King Jungjong. The weird thing is that there are no bodies in these tombs. There's not a single person buried in all of Seonjeongdeung. But why? Why are there no bodies? What has happened to the bodies? Well, during one Japanese invasion in the 1590s, they got all the way to Seoul. And they got to these tombs and they dug up the burial mounds and burned up the bodies. And so once the invasion was repelled, the people went to inspect the tombs, and they found that the bodies of King Sejong and Queen Jonghyun were completely burned. They only found ashes in there. And it's believed that this was done as an act of disrupting the energy, the peaceful energy of the tomb, which is sort of a theme with Japanese invasions. Usually when they came to Korea, they tried to mess up energy and bother ancestral sites. So this, nothing new. The super strange thing was the body was found in the tomb of King Jungjong. He was found totally intact. So the people who examined the body, they couldn't confirm that it was really him. So they decided to ask people who knew him when he was alive, because he had just died like 40 years prior. So some people who knew him when he was alive possibly identify him. The people who knew him when he was alive were all so old now that they didn't remember what he looked like. So they were unable to confirm that it was him. But they had another clue. People thought, King Jungjong died in the summertime like 40 years ago. Wouldn't he be way more decayed than this? And let me tell you right now, the answer is yes. You don't need to Google what a 40-year-old decayed body looks like, because I already did it for you. And let me tell you, nothing looks fresh. If it was a dry environment, then your skin and stuff is all mummified. If it was a more humid environment, then your body fat has all turned into some soapy substance called grave wax. He doesn't look like a freshly dead dude, because they thought that, based on what we know, this is probably the body of a recently deceased Japanese soldier, which means he's messing up our Pungsu again. And we can't have people messing with our Pungsu. I'm sorry, wings are so hard to do. The body was removed. The unidentified body was removed, and instead they buried just some robes that belonged to the royals. Pretty spooky, right? Kind of scary. Woohoo! So there you go. That's some of the cool history of the tombs, the Joseon Dynasty tombs. So since I still have a little bit of makeup left to do, how about I tell you a little bit about the king and queen who are buried at Seonjeong, because I think they're pretty cool. So King Sejong was the grandson of King Sejong, and he was the grandson of King Sejong, which means he was the great-grandson of King Sejong. And his reign as king was marked by growth and prosperity. Joseon was doing well. The national economy was good, the laws were laid down. He had extra laws laid down based on the laws that Taejong, Sejong, and Sejong already put down. He was a gifted ruler. In 1474, when the statute law was enacted, he put down a complete code of law that was actually started by King Sejong, his grandfather. He was continuing the good work. He was also the one to improve the law. He also liked to get some drinks in him and argue the finer points of politics with some of the liberal scholars. And I just think that's pretty neat. Like, let's get drunk and have a fight about politics. Can you imagine how brave you have to be to argue with the king? He also encouraged the scholars to publish a lot of books for the people, like for people to educate themselves. Books about geography, social etiquette, those kinds of things. Books which would benefit the common people. So he sounds like a pretty cool dude, right? I will say it was also Sejong who reinstated the widow marriage ban. So that's not that cool. He was mostly cool, but then that part kind of sucked. Now his wife, Queen Jonghyun, she outlived him by a lot. She lived like 30 years longer than him, 35 years I think it was. She outlived her husband by 35 years, which allowed her plenty of time to look over her tomb development, her tomb construction. She made her tomb so much more detailed and elaborate than his. Like, if you go visit Seonjeong and you look at King Seonjong's tomb and then go over to Jeongyeon's tomb, you'd be like, wow, why does she get such like prettier stuff? Her tomb is so lovely with such like intricate details on all of the statues. It's because she had 35 years to oversee the construction of this tomb. So, but she's pretty cool. She was very dedicated to Buddhism, and she oversaw the construction of a lot of Buddhist temples, including the one in Gangnam, Pungsu. Pungsu was the temple that she had built with very specific designs in mind. So, now I'm almost done with my makeup here. I need to pick a color, and I'm going with a dark theme. So, tell me what you think. Not that, that's too bright. So, yeah, so she was the one who, she's the one who also had more detailed statues in her tomb as well. There's a rumor that her statues' faces are actually based on the soldiers and scholars that she liked in real life. But that rumor hasn't been verified. So you heard it from me, but you don't know if it's true. Because I don't know if it's true. Oh my God, it's so blood red. I got it on my teeth. Okay. There's a makeup tip. If you put too much lipstick on, takes it right off, and then it doesn't get on your teeth. There's a lot more to tell you about the Chosun tombs. I could go on and on and on. I skipped so much information just because we don't have time for it. So if you'd ever like to see more, remember to leave a comment. And next time, I think I'm going to tell you another spooky story, or perhaps we'll learn about hanboks. I haven't decided yet, but you should definitely come along to the next video. So if you want to see more makeup and history with Maggie, then make sure you like, comment, ring that bell for a notification, and don't forget to subscribe. You have to subscribe before you can hit the notification, so do it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.